If you could do anything you want, regardless of how much money you made or needed, what would you do? That's the question my parents asked me when I quit my job last year. The answer came out quicker than I even remember having thought it.
I want to make movies, but that's not very realistic.
And they said, why not? Because they knew, just like everyone else who had been around me since a very young age, that all I had ever wanted to do was make movies and be in them. You see, long before I had ever had this conversation, I was a business student at Emory University, where alongside my business courses, I also took a lot of courses in math and science in the hopes that I'd pursue an engineering degree in the future. So before I graduated, I applied to many master's programs and left for New York that summer, where I did an internship at the Bank of New York, BNY Mellon. And I really enjoyed the time that I spent with all the people I met there, and even got a chance to correspond with the CEO of the firm. But I realized I'd never get to express my talents at the bank, and I was sure happy I applied to all those master's programs. Eventually, I ended up hearing back from Johns Hopkins, and that fall, I began my master's in computer science. It was August 2022, around the time that ChatGPT really started to take off, and the only letters anyone really seemed to know in the alphabet were A and I, so naturally I decided to specialize in it. And although some of those classes were really tough, they were also very rewarding. By my third semester alone, I'd already learned so many things, like cloud computing, data structures, neural networks, and all sorts of programming languages. While continuing to do my courses, I took up a job at the clinical NLP lab at Yale University's medical school. Here, I worked alongside a lot of researchers. I got the opportunity to be a front-end engineer and a back-end engineer and a database manager. This gave me a lot of experience, and I helped build a lot of different products. I really improved a lot of my technical skills, as well as learned to use new AI tools that were coming out like Cursor and Claude Code. During this time, I learned a lot and also left a few lasting impressions. Every day on the job was like paradise, but I knew that a more sustainable career for me had to be elsewhere. So here we are, back at the conversation. Deep down, I knew I wanted to make movies, but as you know,
But that's not very realistic. It's not very realistic.
But who cares if it wasn't realistic? Because the perfect time was never going to come around. Sometimes you just have to pick up what you have and get started. I started with off-the-shelf diffusion models like Nano Banana Pro and Veo. I was able to produce some pretty solid work, like this potential advertisement for an environmentally conscious fashion brand. But all that glitters isn't gold. Eventually you start to realize that diffusion produces these abnormal results, whether it's some deformed face, asymmetric eyes, or just things like two knives. Diffusion is good for prototyping concepts like this mid-century musical.
I've mapped every trench in the Atlantic, except this one.
Maybe it's got a surprise waiting.
Down in the deep where the moonlight won't go. There's a laugh, there's a laugh.
You think you can just waltz into Atlantis?
If you could take one idea away from my portfolio, it would be that diffusion doesn't offer any easy way of editing outside of just reprompting the engine and hoping that it gets it correct the next time, which makes it a real pain to use in longer productions. And my goal is to fix this problem by making diffusion outputs easy to edit. I didn't know how to exactly make this happen, so I started exploring different tools like Comfy UI, where I was able to put together multiple models and run them in parallel on the interface. I was also able to chain the different outputs together and get more enhanced results, and use tools like control nets, VAEs, and LoRa's to get better control over the outputs that I wanted. But even these different tools didn't help me get to the level of control that I was looking for. After a lot of research and discovery, I found this method called dream boothing, which was made popular by Interpositive's Joe Penna. And what it does is that it gives you the ability to take a existing image model and add your own data in order to fine-tune what the model knows and understands. By introducing new data into the model, it intimately understands the exact kind of look and style that you're going for. With this, users can introduce what their character looks like into the model, as well as the style that they're looking for. And the amount of control that this allows is far more than I found with any use of LoRa's. In order to showcase what I learned from dream boothing, I made a 3-minute video clip of a story called Boarding Up, where a CEO of a failing firm addresses the board on how they can try to save the company. I made 2 versions of this video. One uses dream boothing, and the other one uses an off-the-shelf diffusion model called Seedance 2.0. You can see the differences of these 2 video outputs in my portfolio. Dream boothing is really good for when you have a solid reference video of people that are close up and you want to apply certain styles on characters, but it still has certain pitfalls for applications where you might want to model a vehicle movement or add props into your set. I think the best way and the most scalable approach of using AI in cinematography is to implement it within existing software tools like Blender or Maya by Autodesk, Unreal Engine, and Moho, to name a few. Imagine just talking to the software to be able to create an entire city in Blender. There are companies and teams working on making this possible, but as the technology stands, it's really not there yet. Many people have tried to use MCP tools to be able to connect LLMs like Claude Code into Blender and other softwares, but it's not able to fully understand the application. I think to build an enterprise-grade solution, it would be necessary to start experimenting with hybrid pipelines where we line up multiple different tools together to be able to give diffusion-based outputs the editability that the industry really needs. And this is the area of AI cinematography that I'm most interested in, is where we can enhance existing DCCs with AI pipelines. For example, I'm using Hunyuan's 3D to image to 3D noding within Comfy UI to take a single image and convert it into a fully viewable 3D mesh that can even be exported and brought into existing software like Blender, Maya, or Unreal Engine. We can even add multiple image references to get a more accurate reading on the 3D mesh, like this character, for example. You can see that the unique hairline is different on either side of the character because I added in the reference images for the left side and right side of the character. So in conclusion, the use of AI in cinematography really shines when the quick outputs of diffusion are paired with the editability of existing software to be able to create a hybrid approach and eases the burden of tedious work on animators. I'd be really grateful for an opportunity to learn from industry experts and understand how a production house functions. I think that with my creative talents as well as my experience as a software engineer, I'm in a strong position to also contribute to the table. I'll be working very hard to bring strong wins for the studio. Thank you for looking through my introductory video, and I hope that you take the time to look through the rest of my portfolio. Thank you so much.